So we are speaking to Mr. Sagar Bahadur today. He's an expert on global education, and he's an executive director at Acumen, which is a global higher education consultancy. So we are going to talk to him today about emerging opportunities in a new country, comparatively new country, Japan, for Indian students. So, if I could ask you about, there are a lot of headwinds across many of the popular destinations, even as we speak. Every day, we are seeing a lot of unfavorable things happening when it comes to students. As far as the popular destinations, many of them are concerned. So, if you could talk a little about how Japan is emerging as a popular destination to attract Indian students, and what are some of the positive points that Japan has to offer?
Okay, so thank you, Ishani. It's wonderful to be here. And I think to set context from where these opinions and data would come, I'll just briefly talk about what I do, what we do at Acumen, and where we see headwinds and progress and kind of new developments. Acumen is where I lead the business for Asia and their strategy across the globe. And we've been, again, 18 years into this business where Acumen pioneered the concept of in-country representation. So currently, we work with more than 125 universities across the globe, spanning across countries, where we are deeply engaged with their international agenda. So we really get to see what their priorities are, what's changing, how geopolitics really play a big part in what happens, for years to come. And through Acumen, we have close to 38,000 students who are mobile across the globe, picking their aspirations, reaching newer destinations, and then pursuing, their dreams. So it's really given us that kind of lens, very geographically spread, and the connections with universities and governments to see what's really happening. Apart from universities, we work with multiple government agencies. So we work very closely with the government of US, UK, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, Canada, Ireland, to really see how they're seeing, the shifts, what are their priorities, how can, countries like ours in the global south can help. For your specific question, I think we are seeing headwinds, and it's a very cyclic industry. Countries generally pick up, and due to geopolitics and other kind of reasons, US is going through that transition. So we've seen over the last few months and a year or so, I think there are certain policy recommendations, certain policy changes, which may not attract a particular geography of students, for what their interest levels would be. And I think when you look at the South Asian student community, generally, and especially Indian community, generally the big fours have really dominated. So the US, Canada, Australia, and UK have been the big players. And each one of them are having certain policy shifts, certain kind of refinement of their own student recruitment process, visa procedures, which is leading to either speculation, standards to be increased, difficulty levels, to be put in the processes just to be more filtered and refined. And what that has given rise to is newer destinations coming forward and talking about how welcoming they are. And of course, most of them would be in need of good talent. And the Indian talent is really recognized across the globe now. So that's, I think, the latest what we have seen in the last 1.5 years, where countries like Germany, a lot of other European countries, Japan, Korea, have started coming more boldly, more openly to India and showcasing how they can transform this talent into global workforce. When you talk about Japan, especially, I think Japan is in need of talent given their own demographic challenges. And they've been very, I think, very clear, very persistent with a government mandate of attracting 400,000 students to Japan for studies. That kind of number generally can be catered, by only a few countries, and India stands very tall, for that kind of an ask. Uh, they've launched multiple initiatives. One of the biggest initiatives is Study in Japan, which at Acumen, we are very proud that we've been able to get that initiative, helping government understand what policy fundamental changes would be required. Secondly, how do you go to market, how awareness is generally looked at, and our experience with the UK, US, and other big destinations really comes into play in guiding them what the students, parents, and stakeholders are looking at. And most importantly, I think Japan, what it needs was post awareness, the right student support infrastructure. And I'm very proud to say that just 2 weeks back, under the Study in Japan mandate, Acumen has launched Study in Japan, which is a common portal for any student interested to know more about Japan, but also apply to different universities, get counseling, get support for pre-departure and post-departure kind of features. So I think it's very exciting for Japan and for Indian students to see a new destination coming up.
Okay, so when it comes to Japan, the first question which I think all students would face would be language, because commonly Japan is not seen as an English language destination when it comes to education or business, for that matter. So, do you see Japanese universities and institutions offering courses in at higher education level in English, or is there any kind of help or support being offered to English and non-Japanese speaking students, which would be a majority from India?
Sure. So I think to answer that, I'll also go back to, I think, the kind of perceptions a lot of countries had for India for a certain time, where I think they could never imagine, what India has transformed into. And I think where Japan comes, of course, much more developed in terms of, their economies and industry. I think the Japan that you see now is still very open to English language. The kind of tourism numbers that you're seeing, the multi-fold increase every year, clearly shows that they're very receptive. They have that influx of a lot of foreigners coming in. Japan, and again, there are a lot of myths around what Japanese education will look. I personally, being in the sector, had very similar myths till like last year, where when my first travel happened, I was worried about how do I take the first taxi, how do I reach my hotel, will food be an option? And in a span of 6 to 7 months, I've been there 6 to 7 times, and I think each time I discover something new, but it's been seamless, flawless. I've been taking public transport, food is not an option. Conversations with shops, people, I mean, just English works in many ways. And again, Japan is changing, so it will take another few years for them to be more open. But the common perception, which through Study in Japan we're doing, is that there are multiple programs at every Japanese universities which are taught in English. If you pick up the case of University of Tokyo, which is their top premier institution, world ranked 32nd as per QS, they have programs in English. They have been able to very successfully work with the education system, higher education system, where every university has transformed itself. So for any student going from whichever part of the world, they have Japanese language track, they have English language track, and students can choose and decide irrespective of whichever track you take, they take the responsibility of teaching Japanese on the side. So that's something that really helps you on your day to day for further career opportunities and making them successful in assimilating into the system. Because ultimately, when you look at Indian students' work opportunities, post study work is something what they're all aiming at. And I think in a span of 2 to 3 to 4 years, staying in that community, getting help from the university, they're able to pick up those language kind of programs capabilities. Uh, on the other side, the Japanese companies are also becoming more and more open to the kind of talent. So the requirements of language are also getting a little diluted. As a stat, Japanese has 5 different levels. So that it starts with the most basic level of N5 and goes to N1. And for engineering and STEM kind of talent, they have relaxed and diluted that entry level to an N3 as well. So a lot of companies are very happy that if you can make basic conversations, that talent can come into companies. And I think we are seeing more of university industry cooperating together and working on these things. So I think that gap is going out, and a lot of education for us to do, for all of us to know what Japan offers as well.
Would you have any number right now as to how many Indian students are annually going, even on an average, to study in Japan? And what are the courses which are attracting a larger number of Indian students in Japan? And if you could also talk about a couple of universities which are, known among Indian students and where Indian students are going to study.
Sure. So when we took this project, and I think that was the first time we also started really deep diving into what Japan has to offer, what they've been doing historically, we were very shocked and surprised that there were only 1,600 students who annually would go. So that's the basic, kind of 1,500, 1,600 kind of flow that goes. And when you compare that number with our immediate neighbors, you look at Nepal, they'll be sending more than 12 to 13,000 students. Look at Bangladesh, they'll be at 6,000. Sri Lanka is equally 5 to 6,000. And we started thinking, where is this gap? What is really happening? Is it a language barrier? Then why would, our immediate neighbors would be able to send? I think the strategy changed. Japan came to India with a lot of research focus, worked extensively with the IITs and the industries. And of course, because of that, the mobility was more towards research and, higher levels of education. Whereas when they have gone to our neighbors, it's been more around vocation, it's been more around skilling. And I think there is a balance, which study in Japan needs to bring, and we are working towards that. So that's the number we have. There are multiple universities. I think the topmost university and the choice for students is University of Tokyo. And very happy to state that now they have two of their in-country staff who are in India working day and night to go to different schools, different universities, government bodies, talking to students to tell them about who they are and what they can do. And there are multiple other universities like Kyoto University, Osaka University. All these universities generally would rank in the top 100 as per QS. And Japan, again, very similarly, has public universities and private universities. As a country in general, their focus on quality is very high. So even if you look at private institutions are top class with their labs, research, and the kind of commitment. Very proud to say it's one of the only or one of the few countries who believe in equity of fees, which means international students and local students would pay the same fee in most of the institutions, which is, I think, a very new concept when we are going to Indian students and saying that you can actually study in a 32nd ranked university. Tokyo is one of the safest places in the world. It is economical given where the yen stands in terms of currency. You're getting taught in English. They have the best technology labs. They have less of talent in that age group. So, jobs are in plenty. But also your fees is only going to be 3.5, 4 lakh rupees per year. You can work part-time to recoup that. You have post-study work visa. So it ticks all the boxes which a student or a parent would look as a driver for that decision. And when you get to know that, okay, it's affordable, safe, quality, so that I think makes a great proposition for India, South Asia, and other markets.
The student visa policy, how easy or difficult is it when it comes to Japan as far as Indian students are concerned? And also, if you can explain a little bit in detail about the paths to employment from after students finish their courses.
Sure. So Japan's visa is, in terms of process, one of the more, one of the faster processes that you can look at. We're looking at a time period as short as 4 days to a time of 2 weeks. It is done through a VFS approved channel. So they have the systems in place of how, student visas can be done. I don't think Japan has hit the kind of traffic that most of the big fours or other countries would have hit, where they have a lot of systems and processes of credibilities and all. One of our recommendation for study in Japan has been that while we are building this strategy for 5 years, let's not repeat the mistakes certain countries did where the floodgates opened. So we've been very careful of how credibility, interviews, integrity, the genuineness of the intent to study is really looked at. And when you see the common platform which Study in Japan and Acumen has, I think it takes care of that whole vetting of the application to the student, to the background, to the intention. And then it goes to that regular process, which is very smooth at this point. And currently it stands as a very one-stop solution where everything can be sorted through the university, through the common app, goes to VFS and is sorted. It's so that's how the visa process works. Uh, After you study, you get your extensions to look for jobs or get into internships. And as soon as you're able to finalize something, your visa gets transferred into an employment visa. And that's something which I think is a great kind of provision they have for international students. Now, one was the language challenge, which I spoke about, and a lot of companies and students both are walking that distance. We've personally seen students really taking that intentional approach of learning, different levels of language. And at the same time, the companies are walking the distance to come and open arms to say, okay, the skill really matters and we'll work out what that works. And what has also happened is uh, I think the universities have started working and creating ecosystems of companies coming and understanding the how important talent is at this time. So very recently, a top national university in Kyoto invited 20 big Japanese corporations and showed the pedigree and the talent of international students to showcase this is the kind of talent they can bring. But these are some of the limitations around languages. And I think that movement is happening. I'm also very proud to talk about a project that we're running between the Japanese government initiative and India. Is They have a government arm called JETRO, which is their external trade promotion organization. And JETRO would represent hundreds of Japanese corporations within them. They have multiple offices in India. One is within our office just upstairs in the same building. And they have now given us a project where we are connecting Japanese corporates with Indian institutions. These are projects where Japanese companies can directly collaborate with Indian institutions and help students with placement opportunities in Japan. And if that journey is going to take some kind of investment of language, culture, etiquettes at the start of the journey, I think that's exactly where the future would look at. So you can imagine in the future, companies like Sony, Fujitsu, Uniqlo coming and having joint programs in Indian institutions. And when the student studies for 3 years, these companies will be able to place them within great, kind of cities within Japan. So I think there is that conscious call given they need talent, from India.
Right. Right. So this platform Navi, how does it sort of help students and support them to in their journey to studying and perhaps later working in Japan?
So I'll set context of that as well. As soon as we got the project of study in Japan, we were overwhelmed to see that apart from China and India, uh, Japan is one of the, again, fewer countries who would have 700 to 800 institutions. So like really the capacity to service, a large number of students. But what we also very quickly realized was that every institution has a very unique process, a very distinct process of admissions. Their forms can be different within universities. Every school will have a very different process, different timelines. And we were very clear seeing how this happens in Australia, US, and UK, where I think there's such mature education systems in terms of process timelines and all, that even if we are able to have enough awareness in India about what Japan is offering, ultimately the main bottleneck will be where will these students get the support and guidance because it's all fragmented. So Navi Japan was a concept that we took to University of Tokyo, who owns the Study in Japan mandate for South Asia. And we said, given all what we have seen and how the student dynamics work, let's have a common portal where students come and really get educated about Japan, scholarships, universities, deadline, procedures, requirements. And this then, as soon as a student feels comfortable in the destination and maybe the program theme, Navi Japan itself is able to guide the student to various universities as per their interest, their merit, other kind of filters that they may have. So Navi Japan is basically this front end, what you see, which brings the Japanese higher education system together with all the information, but it doesn't leave you there. It gives you opportunities to chat live with experts, to speak to student ambassadors in Japan, to get help in visas and application forms, pre-departures. It also has services which allow post-departure. When you arrive in a new country, there are systems where you can be taken care of, opening your bank accounts to finding the right SIM card operator. So I think it's just that kind of a wraparound service that we felt is important, given that we were looking at a long-term vision that if we are able to get 5,000 to 10,000 students interested, who's going to take care of that? And that's exactly where Navi Japan operates.
Right. Thank you. I've covered all my questions, and it was great talking to you. And going forward, I think we'll see a lot of developments as far as education in Japan is concerned. It's an emerging destination for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ishani. And I think it'll take time, but it's one of the most fascinating phases we are seeing where students are looking at newer destinations. And I think Japan, like I said, ticks all those boxes. So very happy to see, how the momentum gets increased. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Great talking to you.
Thank you.